Hi everyone, we've got a really exciting day ahead of us. So we've come down to LGC to go through the Informed Sport batch testing process. We've currently got one of our products in testing, so we're going to go through the stages that these products will undertake and also all of the range that we've got through Nutritionx. Obviously our ethos is about clean and safe sport, so it'll be really good to give you an insight into what Informed Sport do, who they are, and also we're going to give you a guided tour around the lab so that you can see the individual stages and process that goes through. So it's going to be really good content for you to look at today, and also just give you a brief understanding of what Informed Sport and how pivotal it is for Nutritionx. So let's go inside and we'll see Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla Devlin. I'm a Business Development Manager for the Informed Sport programme. We are a risk assessment quality assurance programme testing sports nutritional products for banned substances. Nutritionx have all of their products tested with Informed Sport, and we test for up to 240 banned substances. And the main aim of our programme is to try and protect elite athletes and drug tested personnel from any inadvertent doping threats. So to become Informed Sport certified, each and every product needs to have a pre-certification testing element to it. So nothing comes onto our programme until we've done the pre-certification testing, and we also do a manufacturing audit of the manufacturers and also the packers. So we really add like an extra layer of robustness into our programme. It's super important for us to try and minimise the risk of any cross-contamination of banned substances at the front end of the process, and then we also test the finished products. Once we're happy with both of those, then they come onto the programme, and every batch that is tested going forwards has to be sent in for analysis, and it can't be released to market until they've had a certificate saying it's all good to go. Okay, let's go into the lab and go and see the process. Okay, morning guys. So we've got Nutritionx in our labs today. Really excited about showing them the journey of their products. So all of Nutritionx products are on Informed Sport, and every single one of them, it doesn't matter if it's a powder, capsule, a bar, they're all going to go through this process. It can take 7 to 10 working days, and it's pretty intense. So bear with me as I try and explain some of the science. Okay, so we've got your Nutritionx product. That's going to arrive by courier. It's going to come into our sample management room behind us. Okay, so the scientists in there are going to take a 1 gram portion of that. If it's a bar, they might need to freeze the bar and then they grind it down. They get that 1 gram sample. If it's a capsule, they'll be able to get the liquid from inside the capsule, and then that comes through into what we call the wet chemistry lab. So once that product's come in here and it's kind of 1 gram test tubes, it's really important for us that we do a batch control so that we know whether we're putting in kind of 1 sample or up to 50 samples, that whole batch hasn't been contaminated, and also that we know if we add kind of a drug mix to it and what we call internal markers. So we have like 30 to 40 internal markers added, like it's called deuterated cocaine or deuterated testosterone. It means it's structurally similar to those banned substances. We should really be finding those substances at the other end of the kind of the journey of the product. And if we don't see them, we know that there's been a problem and we'd have to come back to the start and start that whole process again. So it's looking for like a positive control and a negative control, and those are for our own kind of quality purposes to make sure we're finding everything we should be in that product. Once we've got our 1 gram sample, what we do is something called a solvent extraction. So what we're trying to do is basically we want to isolate, we want to purify, and we want to concentrate. It's a bit like we're looking for a potential needle in a haystack, and actually we're not interested about the rest of the haystack, we're just looking for that potential threat. So we want to really concentrate down those materials as much as we can, so that when they go through to the instruments in the other lab, we can really detect if there's any issues or threats within that product. Okay, so once we've done the solvent extraction, we can pour this onto our cartridge. Now what we're looking for is that compounds of interest are going to stick to the cartridge, and we can kind of wash off all that other stuff that we don't need. So when I was talking about we're trying to look for that potential needle in a haystack, we want that needle to get stuck to this cartridge and everything else can kind of wash off. We can then kind of isolate those compounds that have stuck to the cartridge, and then we can kind of pull them off, and then we can take them to our instruments in the next lab and really kind of get into the nitty-gritty and work out what those compounds are and whether they're a threat. Okay, so we've done our isolation, our purification and our concentration, and now when we've got our final sample, we're going to take that through to the instrument lab. Okay guys, so we've come through into our instrument lab. Remember, we kind of really wanted to concentrate down our samples so we could bring it in here and put it on our instruments. It's worth noting that actually we're world renowned for equine and canine doping lab. So there are so many machines in here. I wouldn't want to know how much they all cost, but super high tech. We use a portion of this lab for the sports supplement world, but we do so much more testing on top of that. Okay, so here in the instrument lab, we're going to look at some mass spectrometry machines. Okay, this is a gas chromatography mass spectrometry machine. It slightly baffles the brains because it's so scientific, and I can't tell you everything about it, but what I do know is that it's utilised to separate the target analytes. So those analytes that we're looking for. Remember back in the other lab, we put in those internal markers, those banned substances, and we really want to be seeing those so that we know that all of our processes are working. But equally, we don't want to be seeing any of those analytes in any other of the nutritional products that we test. And this is the place where we kind of really drill down to see if any of those analytes are shown. So I don't know if it's just because I'm a bit old, but do you remember at school when you had like a blotting paper and you'd put a drop of ink on it, and the ink would go into the middle, but then it would create kind of like almost a rainbow effect as the dyes like separate out onto that blotting paper? Well, this is kind of the same, okay? We want to separate those analytes, and we're specifically looking for any kind of banned substances so we can really protect the athletes. Okay, so at the start of the journey we had a massive tub of Nutritionix products. By the time it comes into the instrument lab, it's literally in this tiny vial. So this vial is going to go into this machine, and then it's going to be vaporized, and then it's going to separate. In all essence, that's what it is, and at the end it's going to create loads of data for us with peaks showing us what different analytes are in there. So here's some information that would come out of this mass spectrometry machine. Loads and loads of peaks for different analytes. And what we'd hope to see is we would just see the peaks for the internal markers that we put into the product at the very beginning of the stage, and we wouldn't want to see anything else. If we're seeing any unusual peaks or anything we're not expecting, then that's a red flag for us, and it would go back to the beginning and we'd do a whole investigation as to what that peak is and what we're seeing and whether it's a threat or not. One of the most time-consuming things in this whole process is once it's gone through the labs, we're probably on about day 4 or 5, at the end of that process we need to have 2 sets of eyes looking at this data. So we go through with one scientist, and then it goes for a second review, and after all of that, then like the top dog scientist then looks at it again, reviews everything, and only then will you get a certificate of analysis to say that that product has been safe to go out to market and to be sold to elite athletes. Okay, so we're really excited about our new piece of kit. This is called our HRAM, or High Resolution Accurate Mass. And basically the accurate mass just means that we're going to be able to be even more accurate and look for even more compounds. So at the moment we look for about 240 banned substances, so this machine will help us expand our screen and be able to look for 260, 270. It means we can really stay on top of like new threats within the marketplace, and as long as we've got a reference standard for those new threats, then we can hopefully add it to our screen and make sure we're staying on top of kind of any new issues that could potentially, you know, harm an elite athlete's career. So we really want to protect those athletes and protect our brands, and this is going to help us do it.